everybody. What's happening? Welcome back to story time. Today I'm going to read about this amazing lady. Her name is Rachel Carson, and she was considered an environmentalist. Probably one of the earliest one to actually have that name put on her and her work. She was an incredible, incredible woman. She's one of my sheroes, as opposed to heroes. She's a she-ro. Ha ha ha. Like, I hope I'm some of your shero. So here we go. And this is a series called Women Leading the Way. We just got about 6 new books into the library with different women doing their thing. And I picked this one for you today because it's environmentalism and nature and saving the planet is near and dear to my heart. And I hope it's going to be near and dear to your heart too. So Rachel Carson, what is she all about? Who is she? Why should we care? Yes, you should, because she's an awesome, awesome lady. So we're going to start out by, I'm trying to think if there's an author. Well, it's a nonfiction book, so they don't really have an author particularly attributed to this. So we're going to start off by asking, who was Rachel Carson? Rachel Carson, who were you? Rachel Carson was an environmentalist. She was a writer and a scientist too. Her book, Silent Spring, changed the world. It led people to care about nature. This is one of her quotes. In nature, nothing exists alone. And she said that in 1962. This is a little bit about her early life. Getting her start. Rachel was born in a small Pennsylvania town in 1907. Whoa. Growing up, she loved to explore nature. She was very shy. She found a voice through writing stories. You see where she's from? There's a map of the United States, and there's Pennsylvania. She's from way out west of Pennsylvania. Here's New Jersey. I wonder if she ever came and hung out in New Jersey. Rachel wanted to be a writer, but a teacher inspired her to study biology. Rachel doing research off of the Atlantic coast in 1952. Hey, maybe she did make it to the Jersey Shore. So here's her profile. She was born on May 27th, 1907. She basically worked in biology. Her hometown was Springdale, Pennsylvania. She had a biology degree from the Pennsylvania College for Women, and she had a zoology degree from Johns Hopkins University. And her heroes and influences were Maria McLean Carson, who was her mom, and Mary Scott Skinner, who was one of her college professors. Biology gave Rachel's writing a purpose. Oceans were her favorite subject. Rachel became a marine biologist. Few women were scientists at the time. She also wrote about science for newspapers and the radio. Here's another quote. The history of life on Earth has been a history of interaction between living things and their surroundings. Changing the world. Rachel began to publish books based on her scientific work. Her books won awards. Her writing made it easy to understand tough scientific topics. Then Rachel found an important topic. Deadly pesticides were harming humans and animals. Rachel wrote about the pesticides' effects, and a magazine published her works. Rachel's writings became a book called Silent Spring. And she spoke to the government about the detrimental use of pesticides in 1963. Businesses fought against Rachel. They said her research was wrong. but readers trusted Rachel. Rachel's legacy. Rachel passed away soon after Silent Spring was published, but a change already begun. People were angry about the danger of chemicals. Silent Spring's effects spread far. Certain pesticides were banned. The government began to protect the environment and the animals. Rachel's work made the world a safer place. And here's another quote. The aim of science is to discover truth, and that, I take it, is the aim of literature. And that is just a little bit about Rachel Carson. I definitely recommend the book Silent Spring. I read it when I was a teenager, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things, even though by the time I was a teenager, the book had already been written about 15 or so years. And so because Silent Spring was all about what spring would be like if all the pesticides and chemicals that we use had killed all the critters. There would be no birds chirping, there would be no bees or butterflies. So that's what the importance of that book was. And because Rachel championed a world without the more toxic pesticides, we're going to read a book about birds. She was very concerned that there wouldn't be any birds to herald in the spring. Yeah, that would have been sad, but we know that didn't happen. But we could do better. So we're going to read about water birds today, and it's a book by Jim Aronofsky, and it's part of the National Geographic series. You see that nice picture? Look at those beautiful birdies. Water birds include all birds that swim, dive, or wade in the water. Some water birds are strictly freshwater species, and others are only found around saltwater, like the ocean. And there are those that thrive in both fresh and salt water. Take the time and closely look at these pictures when we go through the story. See how each bird's colors and markings are created by the overlapping of many differently marked and colored feathers. There is no better way to learn about bird anatomy than drawing them. And these pictures will give you a better sense of what the birds are really like. I hope you learn to identify these water birds wherever they occur in your area. But I hope you will wonder about them and try to guess what they're doing. And then he says, now come and watch my favorite water birds with me. Okay, so these are some of my favorite birds, especially the loons. Loons and grebes are birds that you rarely see out of water. Both are diving birds with legs set so far back on their body, because they use them as paddles, that they are quite clumsy on land. Oh, they don't look so great on land, but boy, in the water, they're just built for the water. Loons are usually on large freshwater lakes or salt bays where the birds have plenty of room for their long, laborious takeoffs. Loons flying over prospective fishing waters know how much space they need and will not land on water bodies too small to take off from. Grebes are not so specialized. They can be found in any water, fresh or salt, big or small. However, the grebes are mostly seen in marshy pools, small ponds, and shallow, slow-moving streams. They catch fish and will also dive down and root on the bottom for mollusks. Mollusks are little shellfish. While wading in a tiny pool, I once accidentally stepped on or near a bottom-feeding pie-billed grebe. The startled bird shot up through the surface and flew away, squawking loudly, like, "Bat, bat, bat, try watch where you're walking." Do you see this loon? The loon dives down into the water. They could dive down to 200 feet. What? And can easily outswim a trout. They are built for action, I tell you. Okay, hold on. Let me get this page going here. Okay. Ooh. Mergansers. That's a funny name, isn't it? Merganser. Mergansers are diving ducks. Like all diving birds, their legs are set back on their body for underwater kicking. However, mergansers' legs are not so far back as to make them look clumsy out of water. Mergansers are often seen resting on pond banks or standing on river rocks. In flight, they are streamlined. They are sharp-winged speedsters. Underwater, mergansers keep their wings tucked in tightly and use their stiff tail feathers to steer. While fishing in our little river, I saw 4 common mergansers swimming this way, rapidly in close formation. You see that? They swim underwater in formation. I'm sure that when they swim this way, it's not unlike when they're flying. They kind of swim in formation and fly in formation, so the ones behind the lead bird don't have to exert as much energy, and they often switch positions, so everybody gets a turn taking the lead. Mergansers are sometimes called sawbills because of the teeth-like fish-grasping serrations in their long, pointed bills. That just means their teeth are like a saw, and that's probably how they eat their fish. They come in 3 sizes: small, large, and extra large. And I live on a pond not far from here, and I see diving ducks every day, and they're so beautiful. They're really cute. Where I live, the hooded merganser is the first duck to arrive in spring, as soon as there are patches of open water in the frozen streams. Hooded mergansers are fun to watch. They are so lively, splashing and dunking their bills and flapping their sharp-edged wings. By moving nearer each time the birds dive, I can get quite close without them noticing me. Hooded mergansers are small, but this doesn't stop them from catching really large fish. Watching one of these ducks emerge with a fat 5 or 6 inch fish is a comical sight. The struggling fish jerks the merganser's head all around, but I've never seen a fish jerk free. The merganser's serrated bill clamps down tight and can firmly hold their slippery lunch. Okay, here's a good page. It's asking you if you know, where do the wings go? Like, where do those wings tuck into the bird's body when they're not using them to fly? Water birds often flap or spread their wings momentarily to stretch a muscle. Do you ever see that? You're watching birds on the lake or pond, and they just kind of, they don't take off, they don't leave the water, they just kind of stretch out their wings because they need to get some blood going in there and get it moving. Have you ever wondered where a bird's wings go when the bird is not spreading them? The next time you see a flying bird land, keep your eye on the way it folds up his wings as he lands. In just a few seconds, a bird's broadly spread wings fold closed and tuck completely away under the feathers of the bird's back. That's where the wings go. See, it's showing you how it goes from fully out, and then it kind of collapses into itself until it's tucked under the back feathers. That's really smart of them to know how to do that. Okay, hold on. I'm just skipping until, because we all are familiar with this guy and gal, the Canadian goose. They used to migrate, but I guess they just like our area so much that they just hang out all year. So my wife, Deanna, the author's talking about his wife, can hear geese honking in the sky even when we are driving in the noisy Jeep with all the windows closed. She thrills to the sound. Canadian geese are her favorites. Every autumn we visit a creek on the shore of Lake Champlain to see geese arriving from the north. This creek is one of the many stopovers on their migration south for the winter. At this creek there are ponds and marshlands and, most important, grain fields where the geese find sustenance. Do you ever drive out of Bridgeton and drive by one of the farms and see the whole field full of geese, either Canadian geese or snow geese, like right around this time. That's where they're getting a lot of their sustenance from, is from grains that weren't harvested. When his wife and he see the multitudes of geese feeding in the fields, all the honking and flapping their wings and enlivening the air with flight, we know that countless more wild geese are doing the same in similar refuges all along the great migratory flyways. These Canadian geese mate for life. I don't know how long they live, but they stay noticeably close and they're very attentive of one another. A small group of geese is called a gaggle. A gaggle of geese. Gaggles are often made up of the young geese, which are grown goslings from the same brood. So instead of their 1-year-old kids going away to form their own families, they often stay together, even when the new kids are born. So a multitude of geese, many different flocks combined. Canada and snow geese mingling is a sight to behold. Watch the noisy congregation. Lose yourself in the crowd. Have you ever seen geese flying overhead and it looks like a V? That's flying in formation. And every goose that's flying down the line of the V is using a little bit less energy than the goose in front of them, because the goose in front of them is breaking the air with their bodies and wings. So that's why I said before they kind of switched positions, so that lead goose and the couple of geese that are up around the top of the V don't get tired. And that's how they work together to get to where they're going. So I think that we might, let's just read about herons, because I love herons. Herons are just beautiful. There's a couple of, are they herons or, I'm trying to think what they are. There's two beautiful birds at the Cohansik Zoo, and I'm not quite sure what they're called. Allison, please don't kill me. They're cranes. They are cranes, and they're really beautiful birds. And she gave me one of their feathers. So herons are common around here as well. You might see a great blue heron flying across the sky and go, oh, what's that? It's a dinosaur. No, it's just a heron. Of all the water birds, herons are the most fun to watch. There's a great deal of suspense in their movements as they wade in shallow water, long legs stepping oh so slowly, their necks stretched and arching forward, eyes unblinking, sharp bill pointed down, ready to spear a fish, a tadpole, or a frog. Herons' eyes are naturally angled downward, so the birds can always be watching the water. When you think a heron is looking forward, it may actually be intensely watching its own footsteps. In places where egrets are found along with herons, the two can be easily confused. To my eye, heron and egret anatomies are identical. Here's how I identify egrets. If the bird has coal black legs and feet, it is a great egret. If it has black legs and yellow feet, it's a snowy egret. If it's standing on a cow or a horse, it's a cattle egret. Do you hear that doggy in the background? Bark, 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 bark. Okay, just one more little bit about herons. Isn't that a beautiful picture? Look at that picture. And what do you think the heron caught for dinner? A poor little frog. Well, you know, it's the circle of life. Herons are watchful and wary birds. It is difficult to sneak close to one without spooking it. Let's see. Every evening at the lake, I look forward to seeing our resident pair of great blue herons coming home to roost. I wonder where they've been all day, what new fishing spots they've found. And as the birds swoop low to land behind the cattails, I think of my own day out on the water, surrounded by the wonderful water birds that beautify our world. Isn't that wonderful? We've got birds. We've got Rachel Carson. Don't forget, when you're a little bit older, read that book, Silent Spring. It's a good one. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We really appreciate your time. And please subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for the craft. And we'll see you next story time. Peace. Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to Crafting with your friend, Miss Adaria. Did you enjoy that groovy story time we told? I hope so. The story was about Rachel Carson, and she was an environmentalist and a scientist and a writer. And she was afraid that when spring rolled around, because of all the chemicals and pollution on the planet, that there would be no spring. There would be no birds and no bees. Yeah, this is a fish, but it's the closest thing to a bee that I had. So just pretend this is a giant bee. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a bee today with, yes, that's right, your favorite thing in the whole world, a toilet paper roll. Woo! So to get started with our bee, we're going to wrap our bee in yellow paper. And we're going to measure it and give a little cut. So let's see. Let's see our bee. You know why bees are so important? Because they pollinate things. What? What's that? Well, without pollination, flowers and fruit and vegetables wouldn't be here. So, bee. That is the important word of the day, is bee. So let's just cut up this strip so we can cover our toilet paper roll, or otherwise known as the bee body. Let's see how much we need. All right, just a little bit more, I think, so it can be all that it wants to be. How many bee jokes can you tell? I want to hear them all. You can go to our Facebook page and tell me a joke. A bee joke. All right, so just making sure that that's enough for us, and that looks good. It's a little long, but you know, we want to make sure that that bee is covered up. So we're going to put some glue stick, our fancy glue stick. Remember, it's purple, and then when it dries, it's clear. So how cool is that? We're going to put some glue stick down on this side. And on this side so that it sticks together. And I like to put some, make sure that you have it all the way on the ends too. So everybody, oh, it's coming out of itself. Everybody can stick together and be happy. Be happy. All right, I'm just gonna, hey, our roll is a little off, so let me try that again, because we don't want it to overlap. We want it to be right on target here. Okay. Here we go. I know what's happening. I didn't cut it perfectly straight, but that's okay, because we could trim it up with the scissor. So there is your bee body. Bee body. And I'm just going to trim this up a little bit, just so it's not, so it just looks a little neater. Trim that part up too. All right. Got one more little snippy dude. Okay. So here is our bee body. Now what else goes on a bee? The stripes, right? And an eye, and maybe a mouth, and wings, and antenna too, right? They have little antenna that come up. Okay, this is not making me happy. Let me go back and repair the bee. I think we just waited too long before we stuck it together because this glue stick dries out really quickly. Okay, groovy. Now, I'm going to just cut 2 thin strips that we can wrap around the bee body. And we're just going to do it with glue stick again. And hopefully they'll be somewhat even. We'll see how much we need. Okay, right about there, I guess. See, I made a little crimp to show me. I'm just going to go a little bit beyond that. And I'm going to even up that side. And then I'm going to use this one to measure the next one. So I could see where I need to cut that one. Okay, so that's right about here. Nice. Soon our bee will be able to take off and go pollinate some flowers for us. Hey, have you seen any flowers around? I saw some crocuses. I saw some beautiful purple crocuses over on York Road in Bridgeton. Just gorgeous. They're just popping right up. And I saw some crocuses where I live. I saw purple and yellow and white. And also the daffodils are starting to come up. I haven't seen any flowers, but I've seen the stems come up from the ground. How cool is that? I love spring. Spring is the best. What else did I see? Oh, I saw little white flowers that have little green lines on the inside of the flower. They're tiny. And they were at the base of some trees on the property where I live. Not quite sure what they're called, but I know that they come out pretty early too. Call them the harbingers of spring, which means that they announce to the world that it's spring. Everybody, woohoo, get ready. And soon we'll have all kinds of good stuff to look at, like tree leaves on the trees. And then the birds and the bees will have something to do, especially the bees, because they need those flowers to get to pollinate them, right? So important to have nice flowers in your yard and garden so the bees can help make more with the vegetables and the fruit trees too. Okay, there's our little bee body. Hi, bee buddy. So I'm going to make wings too, because how else can a bee fly if you don't have some wings? So I'm just going to draw actually, I'm just going to cut them out. I'm going to wing it. Because I could do stuff like that. All right, it's kind of like a wing shape. And then I'll just measure the other one with this one. So they're pretty much the same. Winging it. Just clean that one up a little bit so it looks like a wing. Actually looks like an eye, doesn't it? You could draw a circle in there and a lid and an eyeball and a pupil. And it could wink at you. Wink, wink. Okie dokie. So I'm just going to use the same piece of paper. I put down the wing that I cut out, and I'm just going to cut out this wing around it. Here, let's make it easier on ourselves by cutting that paper down a little bit. Can you see that? Just follow along. The other one. Try not to cut the other one too much. But if you do, it's okay, because they'll both be the same size. What else does a bee have? How does the bee gather the pollen? They usually gather it with their mouths and then they transfer it to their back legs. And their back legs carry the pollen back to the hive. And guess what they do with that pollen? They turn it into honey. What? So if we didn't have bees, we wouldn't have flowers or vegetables or honey. Imagine a world without honey. No, Miss Adaria, I can't. So, okay, so to get these wings on, because usually I would glue them, but I think it would take a little bit too much time. So I'm just going to cheat a little and tape them. And it's going to look just fine. So I tape one wing like that, and then I'm going to put this other wing a little bit on that first wing, right? And then tape over that. And look how cute that is. Look, you got wings for your bee. Ooh. And we're going to make some antenna too. And we're going to go back to our construction paper. Or, hey, remember these little slips that I had from the rest of that? What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut them down a little bit. Just a little bit thinner. Or maybe just use these. Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. All right. We're going to use these two. I just said, all right. That's for you, Glenn. All right, all right, all right. That's what I said. So look, I like those antennae. They're nice and skinny. So, all right. Put a little glue stick on there. Pop that antenna up there. Oh my gosh, look at that. It's so cute. You know, sometimes you just have to go along with what you're doing and make it up as you go along, because sometimes it'll turn out okay. I mean, there is a little bit of planning involved here, but that's what creativity is all about, is having a little bit of a plan, some sort of idea or a feeling, and then going with it. And if things need to change and you can adapt to make it how you want it to be, then that's good. All right, so the last thing for our bee is we're going to give our bee some eyes and a face. So I'm coming in with my little mini Sharpie here. And I think I want to put my eyes right about here. And you can have the eyes looking out towards one side. So maybe the bee just saw a really special flower. And the bee was like, oh man, I got to get over there. And I'm going to give this bee a really cute little smile. What do you think about that? What do you think about that, Mr. Fish, that looks like a bee? Well, personally, I approve, and I really like your colors. Oh, thank you. I like your colors too. I wish I could fly, but you know what? I do fly. I just fly under the water. Oh, right. Okay, I get it. So I'm going to go fly and get some pollen and make some honey, and you go back in the water, and we'll both be flying. And what do you think, birdies? Oh, I think you're very awesomely cute. And what about you, Robin? Oh, yes. For a bee, you'll do. You're a little bit bigger than I'm used to, but I think you'll do. So thank you, everybody. I hope you had fun with the bees. Please don't kill bees. They are here to help us make pollen and honey and pollinate the flowers. They're a very important part of the cycle of nature and life. Just be careful. Be careful when you're around them, and everything will be copacetic. So thanks for tuning into our craft and our story time today. We hope you enjoyed it. Please subscribe. Happy spring. And be safe, everybody. Bzzz.